There's a friend of mine who writes for Niners Wire.
Okay.
Kyle Madsen is his name, and I would encourage all you guys to either follow him on Twitter or go to Niners Wire and read his stuff. It's really, really good. He's got, and I thought we could have some fun with this morning. 3 reasons for optimism for the 49ers and 3 reasons to be very concerned in this game about this matchup. So 3 causes for concern and 3 reasons for optimism. So I thought we could go through them. Why don't we start with optimism?
Okay.
Because let's be optimistic first, and then we'll after people are tired of us being optimistic, we'll throw in some this is what could happen. But he writes this article, and it's really, really good. And he says, the Niners have lots of reasons to be optimistic. They're heavily favored. They've got the better roster. They had the better season. They've been in this situation twice in the last couple of years. This is probably their best chance to win an NFC title game since they hosted Green Bay in 2020. And one of the points that he makes, he says it's been rare that Brock Purdy has 2 really bad games in a row.
Right.
And he said the last time he had a quarterback rating of 86.7 or lower, he backed it up with the next game with a 124.7 rating. The time before that, he backed it up with a 148.8 rating. The time before that, he backed it up with a 94.2 rating. His only consecutive really tough games of the year were week 6 and 7, when he posted QB ratings of 55.3 and 81.5. Not that quarterback rating is the end all be all, but it is interesting. Purdy was not very good last week against Green Bay. To me, I asked him about it directly, and I felt like it's weird. It's like I felt like I got the most out of him this week on this front. I asked him, I said, you clearly struggled, and then you bounced back. What was it that made you struggle? And he said, you know what? After I threw the first near pick 6 to Savage, I got a little tentative, was the word he used. I got a little tentative, and I wasn't as good going to my checkdowns. And then Mike Silver followed up a couple questions later, as Mike is a really, really good reporter, and said, when you say you didn't get to your checkdowns, do you mean that you were getting to your checkdowns too late? And he's like, yeah, exactly. I was getting to my checkdowns too late. I wasn't going through the progressions fast enough, and I wasn't making decisions fast enough. And that's what it looked like, Coach. I mean, seriously, it looked like he got a little tentative, and his footwork kind of stopped. And when he did go to his checkdowns, he went to them kind of late, and the timing wasn't quite there. And how much of it was due to Green Bay, how much of it was due to rust, and how much of it was due to the weather, I don't know. I don't know. But, you got dry weather in the forecast. You got a Lions pass D that's ranked 27th in yards and 27th in passing touchdowns allowed. I think he's going to, and you got 2 really challenged young corners in Detroit. They're not what Green Bay has, as you stated before. And I just really feel like the biggest factor in this game is, can and will Brock Purdy continue to play the way he played last week, or will he bounce back in a big way? And if he does bounce back in a big way, I don't think the 49ers are going to lose. And I think the history, as Madsen writes here, kind of indicates that it's pretty likely that he's going to bounce back big. And to me, that is my number one cause for optimism. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that I like about all players, is one of the outliers of knowing that you got a guy that can play is that his best rep is after his worst rep, right? And that's one of the things that you always look for. You look for a guy who doesn't lose confidence, that bounces back, because mistakes will happen, right? Things will go awry. And this is a whole different outset of how football is played. This is the playoffs, okay? You're going to get guys that are specifically schemed to stop you, right? You don't necessarily see this type of attention week to week during the season, because you're too worried about the next guy and the injuries and how we're going to circle the wagons to protect our season. And we may not necessarily want to attack what you do and try to get out of here. So Brock had a shaky game. All right. But at the end of the day, he pulled it together when it counted with that drive. All right. He should have went 100% for the drive if it wasn't for a George Kittle drop. And he handled business and he handled business also not necessarily with his arms, but with his legs. One of the things that I do love about Brock that I see, and I keep talking about, if he's going to be our guy, you got to scout him with anticipation, right? You got to look at what he's going to be, what you think he's going to be. And really, when I hear about a quarterback who's getting late to his checkdowns, it means that he's pressing on his primary and his secondary reads, right? And you're only late in a progression is when you're spending too much time on one or two reads. And I feel as though that when Brock throws picks, there are times where he really wants to survey that field and understand what happened in that area of the field, specifically when he wants to strike again. Case in point, some of his best throws were in the same area of the field where he almost threw that pick six in the beginning of the game, right? He's still going to go back. He's still going to throw those. He's still going to throw those passes. And that's what you need. I do believe that we played against a team that was a little bit tailor-made for us in that they know what we do because they do what we do in Green Bay, right? They themselves have gone through an entire training camp getting together a young quarterback who goes through this same exact offense. So in a way, we almost played our cousins. So there is a huge level of familiarity that we're going to get out of Green Bay that we're just not going to see for the rest of the playoffs, right? Again, this is the playoffs. This is a one-off. Every game is a one-game season, right? So I understand that we've had this entire muscle where we've looked at Brock from a week-to-week basis because we've been doing it for 4 months, right? We've been doing it for 17 weeks, but that's just not the playoffs, right? You got to run with what you brung with. And Brock getting us through Green Bay is good enough. That's what he's here for, right? Our biggest thing is to make sure that we get the run game going and make sure that we stick to our identity. So if and when Brock does have another opportunity where he may throw a pick or throw a would-be pick and we may be a little off in the passing game, what are we going to do from a team standpoint to corral that? It just can't be Brock by himself trying to get himself out of the slump, all right? One of the things that I've kind of looked at, if you look at the thumbnail for this show, is Pound the Rock, all right? Pound the Rock. All right, that's how we're going to get our Super Bowl. You can't have the leading rusher in the NFL on the field when you're actively trying to get out of the mire with your second year quarterback. All right. So
do you go strength on a strength though? Because Detroit is allowing 3.3 yards per carry on first down. It's the number one run D in the NFL on first down. Do you try to run McCaffrey on first down against, what should be or what is statistically the best run D?
Well, this is my philosophy. We have the number one rusher in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's got to count for something. All right. And our identity is that we run the football. We are a ground and pound team. Okay. And Brock is at his most advantageous when that run game is working because the play action game is working as well. So for me, this is a conversation that we're probably going to get into, but it's been brought up that Kyle is coaching a little timid. All right. He's not coaching as aggressive as he could be. And, one of the things that I've noticed is that there's not as many explosives since the Ravens loss, right? He has been kind of coaching us and calling offense a little gun shy.
He did call 39 pass plays though in the rain. So is that timid or is that stupid? Because Green Bay's run D was 28th in the league, and they threw it 39 times and passed it or ran it 24.
Yeah, I think we should have ran the ball much more.
I do too.
And we got the stable to do it. I mean, what are we doing, man? We got 2 more games left in the season. Are we really just going to look at Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell as glorified backups? I mean, There's got to be.
It doesn't seem like he believes in them or doesn't want. I mean, especially Mason. I asked McCaffrey. I said, "You had 17 rushes last week. How many is ideal?" And he's like, "It's not the number. He's like, I can go with more. I can go with less." So he didn't want to jump in on that. But I want to see him get 20 rushes.
All right, so this is the conversation that I want to have with you, because I feel as though that, I'll have a sympathetic ear. When you have the number one rusher in the NFL, that signifies that we are aggressive with the run game. That's supposed to be a weapon, right? And traditionally, Larry, in football, when you have the guy, there's going to be times in the game where everybody knows who's getting the ball, and you just can't do anything about it because we got the number one rusher in the NFL. And for me, I mean, I don't understand the dynamic with Christian McCaffrey at times, right? There's this narrative around him that he always wants his reps, right? That he does not let anybody else on the field. And he plays literally if he has to get pulled off the field. Granted, cool. You deserve that. All right. But where I get a little confused is if you can do that to your teammates and keep them on ice the whole game because you want literally every rep, then where is that same attitude when you guys are passing the ball going 5 wide on the field and you are the leading rusher in the NFL and you can't walk to Kyle and say, yo, give me the ball. Give me the ball. Let's run. When's the last time we seen Christian McCaffrey run the ball, get up and look at the sideline and say, hey, run it again. Run it again. Give me the ball. I'm hot. Give me not what you feel, Kyle. I'm hot. I'm on the field. You're on the sideline. Give me the ball. When have we ever seen an element of that in our game plan? You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm a little confused, where I understand that you want all the reps. I get it. But how many good reps are you on the field, right? How many meaningful reps are you on the field? And, for me, that's why I'm a little perplexed about us being a running football team. I feel like we choose when we want to run and how we want to run in order to stay inside of a scheme. But sometimes I feel like we kind of miss the forest through the trees getting into a scheme. And it's like, I think we should be running right here. I know you guys want to set something up, but we're kind of hot right now. We need to just be running the ball right now. You
know what it is? And it's funny because I've heard Kyle talk so much this year that I feel like I can read his mail at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He talks a lot about balance. He likes balance. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you. You run the ball successfully a couple times, run it fucking again.
Yes.
But his thing is, hey, you know what? Let's now mix in a pass. You know what I mean? Because he's thinking balance all the time. And I'm thinking kind of like the way Harbaugh used to think is we've got this team down. They can't stop the run. Why take a chance putting the ball in the air, run it down their throat? And yet, where was the Kyle Butthead says, I want the 200-yard game from CMC like Mostert did back in the 2019 playoffs. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways to win this game. There's lots of different ways to lose this game. If you can win it running the hell out of it, running it, I don't know, 45 times and throwing it 18 times, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The one thing that stands out about Detroit is those weapons, that offense is fairly complete. Goff's playing well. The running back combo is really good. The tight end that's the great young tight end in the game. The receiver is a true number one receiver. And then Jameson Williams, I mean, you're an Alabama guy. He's as fast as any wide receiver there is. So they've got a field stretcher. They've got an Amon-Ra monster chain mover. They may have the best young receiving tight end in the game in Laporta. Mm-hmm. They've got one of the best receiving running backs I've ever seen. To me, Jahmyr Gibbs reminds me of Ricky Waters as a receiver. And
that's my favorite running back.
And then, yeah, exactly. I loved him. I had him on my fantasy team. I'm a big believer. And And then you got, Montgomery's a horse, 220 pounds on a 5'10 frame. And then you've got Goff having a good year behind a great offensive line. So their offense is pretty freaking complete. And if I'm the Niners, I wouldn't mind playing ball control, complimentary ball, and keeping that offense's possessions way, way, way down. Because if the Niners defense can keep their possessions down, I think they're going to be able to play with more energy. If they can play with more energy, they're going to get more stops. I think a lot of the key in this game is dominate the time of possession on your end by running the ball, even though Detroit can't stop the pass. If the Niners start to run it with success, what do you do if you're Detroit? You've got a pass defense that really can't stand up. The passes are coming at some point, but you're going to have to commit to the run. So to me, if the Niners have success running it, especially after Dan Campbell's been talking all week about stop the run, stop the run, stop the run. If they can't stop the Niner run, they're in trouble. So yeah. I would give them a heavy dose of the run. The question is, do you run it on first down, or do you pass on first down to set up a second down run?
I mean, for me, I run on first down. I mean, the first down you set your narrative on what you want to do. I run on first down. I mean, Tampa Bay ran on these boys. I watched good reps on the ground against these guys with Tampa Bay, man. We watched Baltimore. They played against the Houston Texans. That's the number 2 rush defense in the league, man. DeMeco's got them boys playing good. They ran all over them. They went strength on strength. They didn't avoid it, right? And that's the thing. I don't want us to avoid a certain element of the game just because they're quote unquote good at it. Well, we're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league. This is what it's for. This is when you pull it all out. Pause. You know what I'm saying? But you got to handle your business. I really do believe that having a concerted effort on the ground with multiple guys is going to really help us. Debo on the ground as well. I'm not even trying to say be stale. There's different ways that you can get to it. I'm not trying to say have a traditional, I'm not going to be sitting here crying if I don't see 12 personnel on down one, drive one, but at the same time, there does need to be a narrative set that, hey, you boys are going to have to cover the line of scrimmage before you do anything. Before you call yourself dropping into your zone, trying to get at Brock Purdy, you guys are going to have to cover the line of scrimmage. That's going to protect Brock, right? But those people that are saying, oh, well, running the ball is going to take the ball out of Brock's hands. Well, we want to be able to have Brock be able to have a natural picture of the field when he starts throwing the ball. And we got to start that in running the ball first. I don't want to start going sideline to sideline. Let's get downhill. Figure out what he can do with these guys straight up. That's what I want to see, Larry.
All right. Optimism reason number 2, according to Madsen. Jared Goff. Now, this is an interesting one. He says it should be stated here that Goff had a good year, right? He had a really good year. 67%, 4,500 plus yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 picks. But most of his success came inside in the dome. He's not been nearly as good on the road or outside the dome. At home, he completes 70%, 19 touchdowns, 6 picks, 8.1 yards per attempt. On the road, he completes 64.8%, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks, 7.1 yards per attempt. And then the numbers are even more stark when he goes outdoors. And they haven't gone outdoors in like a month and a half. In a dome this year, he sat at a 70.2 completion percentage rate, 24 touchdowns, 6 picks, 8.1 yards per attempt in 11 games. They only played 5 games outdoors all year. He completed 63%, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks, 6.1 yards per attempt. So, 24 touchdowns and 6 picks in the dome, outside 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. So, the 49er pass defense led the NFL this year in interceptions. If they can
3 of those picks came in Chicago.
Yeah,
outdoors.
Get some pressure. Yeah. And if you can get some pressure on Goff, I think you're going to get picks. And I think Ambry Thomas is going to bounce back with a big game. I think he's going to get a pick. So I kind of feel good about And Fred Warner, it's funny. Fred Warner was asked this week, "Hey, Fred, you guys have the experience and they don't. How much of a factor is experience?" And he kind of pushed back and said, "It's not the experience factor that's our advantage. Our advantage is that we're at home playing in front of the faithful on our surface with our fans and our atmosphere." He's like, teams don't like to go on the road and do it. And Goff's a good example. I mean, games outdoors, he's not nearly as good a quarterback. So I think you pressure him in the A gap. Ragnow's not 100%. They've got Kyoto Awasika, I believe, standing in for Jonah Jackson at left guard. And Ragnow, I think, only practiced one day. Maybe didn't practice at all. He definitely didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. So I love Hargrave inside pressuring Goff, or the Niners blitzing through the A gaps and pressuring Goff, making him move laterally. And I think if you make him move laterally outside, he'll throw you picks. And I think it's a major advantage for the Niners there. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think that Jared Goff is a mark. We do very good against quarterbacks that necessarily don't have athleticism, and that's what I'm looking for our defense to do. We got to bounce back. I mean, let's talk about it. Chase Young did not have a good game last week. All right, he struggled. We need to see an uptick from Chase Young in the run game, particularly, and in pass rushing, and being able to stay inside of his pass rush lanes and hold contained in the width of the pocket. Right now, we're also looking for a big game to come from Javon Hargrave. He's looking at a backup guard. All right, they're missing their all-pro left guard this game, and they're coming in with the backup in Awasika. That's going to be a big matchup that I'm looking for to be able to get at Jared Goff. Now, their offensive line is good. Okay. They got Ragnow. He's coming off some injuries, but he was full go. He practiced full go this past week. They've got Penei Sewell at right tackle. All right. And these boys are a good offensive line. So it's gonna be good to see. It's gonna be good to see the pass rush go against a quarterback that's gonna stay still. All right. Now, I'm more concerned with stopping the run, since it seems like the theme of the show is the run game. Stopping the run on our defense is going to be the biggest thing that we need to do for these guys, because they got 2,000-yard rushers. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs just missed 1,000 yards. He's at like 960 something, but that's big in today's NFL for you to have two rushers that are close to 1,000 yards. All right.
Yep.
So that shows that Jared Goff goes as that run game goes. All right. So Jared Goff he's not going to sit back and see a good picture unless we're able to corral the line of scrimmage up front. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm going to be looking for with Jared Goff. It's not when he just drops back traditionally. We're going to get those shots, right? We're going to get that pressure. But it's when Jared Goff goes in play action, right? When Jared Goff is moving the pocket, when they start getting him out on boot action. Those are the times where Jared Goff, that can't happen. If Jared Goff is moving the pocket and running out of the pocket and we're still not getting to him and he's getting comfortable in play action because the run game isn't being stopped, that's when Jared Goff becomes more of a problem for us, right? So my biggest thing from our defense is to stop that run game, control that line of scrimmage, and I feel like the sacks will come, because this offensive line with Decker in the left tackle spot, that's probably going to be Nick Bosa over there on Decker. We're probably going to see Chase Young on Penei Sewell, right? They always make sure that they put Nick on the most favorable matchup. And that's going to be a big thing for us on that other side, right? Randy Gregory, and Chase Young over Penei Sewell, and how they get that done to be able to pressure the quarterback. So I feel as though that in certain ways, Jared Goff is in the same wheelhouse as Brock is in that it's the run game. It's who takes the physicality, who takes the battle axe first. That's who's going to win this game, right? Who stands up and says, all right, we're going to be physical today, and we're going to be physical first. And you guys are going to be catching up to us the entire game. That's who's going to win this game.